Maybe the internet will work. Hey, all right, we are on air. It is Thursday, August 2nd, and this is a check-in meeting for Backdrop CMS development tasks. According to our agenda, we are supposed to thank new members of our community. You guys might have noticed there's been a lot of activity in both the core and contrib queues last week. In particular, we have two new maintainer applications from Jesus and Kevin Crafts. They are currently working on porting a bunch of modules over from Drupal, so there's also a bunch of new intent to port and port status issues in the queue, which is pretty exciting. So thanks, guys, for all the work on that. We'll work on getting those moved forward. Also in the world of contrib, Laren has been busy among other people. We have new modules for match redirect, select or other structured data, mail log / mail developer that have all come out in the last week. So thank you everybody who has been working on all of those modules, and thank you, Laren, for a whole bunch of intent to ports in the contrib queue as well. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Nate to talk about project update.
No, can you stay in here? Standing out line. Okay. All right. So we always go over the current release, which is 1.10 first, and we still have one outstanding issue that needs to be addressed regarding database credentials need to be URL encoded now. Still piddling around is something that needs some additional work. It's not a bug unless it's like really a bug on your site. So it's a problem that has started since 1.9. If you were upgrading from a version of Backdrop prior to that and you had % symbols in your database credentials, your site might not update correctly until you update that setting in settings.php. So we would just like to make it so that those upgrading and new installations where people include % symbols in their passwords get notified of the particular problem of why their credentials might be wrong. So that's still, we have a workaround in place, but we need to expose the workaround in status report. So still needs work as it has needed for quite some time. There's other issues that are tagged for 1.10 as well. I don't think I have any in particular to call out though, at least there aren't any in the agenda. Do you guys have any that you've run across for 1.10 bug fixes that are pending? No? Okay. We also have a number of fixes that are actually already in 1.10. We don't have any real timeline for 1.10.2. It's usually when we accrue enough bug fixes or something is important enough, then we'll make the next release. Probably after we get that darn URL encoded database credentials fixed. Okay, so let's talk about 1.11. 1.11 is the next release that will be coming out September 15th, 2018. And there's a number of large features that are being worked on for the 1.11 release. Jen's putting it into the agenda. The code freeze is September 1st. So, speaking of which, it is now August, which means that we have this month to wrap up the features that will be in 1.11. And then starting September 1st, that's the start of feature freeze, where we no longer add new functionality after that date. We work on stabilizing anything that went in. Although, really, the way things usually work is things are supposed to be stable even at the time that they are merged in the first place. But that gives us 2 weeks to basically do some testing and get any problems that are discovered in the new code worked out. So let's go over some things. Contact module. Contact module has been spearheaded by Opie. The meta issue is 3023, and there's a number of things that have been really moved forward in this past week, thanks to excellent work of community members. We've got issue 2872 that improves the recipients field in the contact category form, 3215 that provides better messaging on the contact categories, 3216 that the recipients should be rendered as a list, and 3217 that we're just adding a cancel link to the configuration form. So the last three of those, as you know, is probably sequentially numbered UX issues that were all created and then solved all in this past week. All of those are RTBC, and so we'll be getting through those shortly.
These
So
are the kind of issues that I like. It's like there's tiny changes, like even like 10 lines of code or even 1 line of code that actually fix problems that, it's annoying things. So that meta is not even like we list here 4 issues, but it's like more like a dozen of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of them that are RTBC. I think we're in a good place to have this happen.
Yeah, those are just the new ones this week. There's a number of other items inside of that meta, some of which have been fixed, over the past couple of months, and some that are in progress that could still easily be done in the next month. So, yeah, contact module really getting some really great TLC for this release. Can we go back to the agenda? Okay. So, also in the modules that are getting some TLC, oh my gosh, color module. So color module has been spearheaded by Joseph, who is, I think, here in the meeting with us, Mr. Rubik's Cube. And let's see. I do feel like it's worth calling out again, just so that we don't only mention it during one meeting, that the pull request to colorize basis was merged in. And so that is a great enhancement that our out-of-the-box theme can now be modified with different color themes. We have a follow-up issue in that meta. So the meta is 1905 to make it so that we ship with some out-of-box color schemes as well for basis, because even though it's colorizable, end users left to their own devices tend to make really pretty horrific color schemes. So it'd be good to provide some defaults. Yeah. I mean, I've seen a fair number of Drupal sites in my day that are just like Bartik, the purple version, or Bartik, the gray version. Right?
Garland, the green version.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, I just don't want the out of box. I want the slightly different out of box. Yeah.
I posted a question in that ticket. Should we just mimic what we had for the color variations of the other core, the old themes like Bartik and stuff, and just ship that, or do we have any ideas?
That's not a bad idea.
I think we should take a look at the color variations for the old themes, and if any of them make us go, ugh, then we shouldn't do that one.
Yeah.
And it could be that the parts that changed colors in Bartik are different than the basis, and might need a little adjusting. So if we have anyone who understands color, that would be good.
This is almost becoming ancient backdrop history at this point, but we actually already revamped all of the color schemes that are out of the box. We did that 2 years ago for Bartik. So Bartik's out of the box color themes are totally different than the ones for Drupal, because the Drupal ones were dated and
we should take those.
And not aesthetically pleasing.
So we should take the ones that are in Bartik and Core.
So we already made new color schemes
and see if they work.
They're actually quite nice. I like them. I think that was Dr. Beaumont, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, multi-talented.
Wow.
Okay, so, Joseph, yeah, since you're here with us, do you want to give any other updates on color module?
I don't really have any other updates. I haven't touched it in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I know what we're currently stuck on, actually. The big issue that we're working on for color module right now is, where is it? Oh, 3186, which is the user interface overhaul for configuring color scheme. That includes the live preview and also the preview that lets you browse around your entire site with color changes like being previewed, which is
crazy,
freaking awesome. But the holdup on that is around shim libraries for color pickers. That there was a new library called Spectrum that was introduced in that pull request, and the issue I raised is, do we really want 2 color picker libraries in core? Like,
what's the other one?
Or Farbtastic.
So we're going to remove Farbtastic, or do you want it?
It's an API change to remove a library. And do we want to add another library that does basically the same thing?
how much better is the new one? Because I don't think,
So-
since we removed color module support from core,
Can we
the
file?
likelihood someone's using Farbtastic is pretty low, but maybe a contrib module from 777 would use it. Can we check?
Yeah, can we file a follow-up ticket? Like, let us not hold back that ticket and file a follow-up. Like, would that ticket fly without the addition of the new library, only with Farbtastic, and then we file a follow-up ticket of whether to add or replace Farbtastic with that one, so we don't hold it up. It will give us.
Yeah. The new library basically acts. It's a shim to enable the color input in Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And
Basically, we can go without it.
yeah, all the other browsers use built-in color pickers now. So
it only applies to one browser anyway.
yeah.
So why don't we just use Farbtastic for that? And then we'll eventually remove Farbtastic.
Well, the thing is that we don't even use Farbtastic. It just is using the native in-browser color pickers now.
No, in IE11.
Oh, well, that's more difficult because we need to actually do the shimming part where you click in the field and then it opens up a dialog of some kind.
But the new library does that.
The new library does that, yeah. And so Farbtastic only provides a color picker, but it doesn't actually provide like the connection to a color field.
Right.
Because color, the input type equals color didn't even exist when Farbtastic was written.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that.
How big is it?
I don't know. I'll go look.
It's not very big, I would guess.
Yeah.
What's the other thing?
My point was, don't hold the ticket. If it's and the only decision is this with the libraries, and if the thing can fly without the.
But Clonis, if we decide not to do it, that means we would be making the thing not work for IE11.
Well, you would still be able to type in the color hex codes, but you just wouldn't have a picker.
Yeah, it'll still work the same as like if you don't have JavaScript enabled, then it'll basically be just a color input.
I think that's fine.
So it'll be degraded, but it's still functional experience.
Yeah, I like that.
That's where I was getting at. So
okay.
Yeah, Greg, I think you're right that we're held up on this, and we don't really need to be. That we should remove Spectrum from the pull request.
Create another issue.
And create another issue that says
should we add Spectrum?
Add Spectrum for IE11 or
Farbtastic.
Or make IE11 support for color module, and then merge what we have, and then separate that out into another problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The other problem I ran into is the fact that Farbtastic basically hasn't been maintained since Drupal 5.
Yeah.
And like just minor form changes completely break it.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why you're not using Farbtastic at all in the new one, because you don't really need it.
To. Yeah.
It's dated, and removing it provides space for that awesome preview. So
yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yay, consensus.
Well, amongst those present. Yeah. Gregory, can I solicit you to post that suggestion since it was your idea? Sorry. To the issue queue just to check.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, no worries.
Okay, it's 3186. Okay, next up in the category of things that have been stuck but can be unstuck is bringing back the node preview. And so this is issue 3062. And the status of this one is basically it still needs some work. But Doc Beaumont has decided, and nobody has refuted him, so I think that basically means we're in agreement, that he's not going to solve the CSS problem that we have regarding like administrative CSS being present on the front end of the site. He's just going to make styling out of the box that looks sort of like 7, that is just part of the I guess it would be node modules CSS that is added to the front end, and he doesn't really worry about the concept of administrative CSS being present on the front end at all.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And that's the thing, is that, yeah, for the most part, it probably will be fine.
The biggest problem with that is not the styling, because styling we can fix or we can decide later on. My biggest concern is that modules that actually complement the submit buttons section, like the save draft module that adds buttons. So the ribbon that we add when we're previewing, if, for example, save draft is installed, its buttons are not present there anymore. So we have a separate thing that is going on that is being rendered there, just with the submit button, with the save changes, whatever button. But if now we have this use case of save draft that we think of adding into core, but there might be other modules that interact with that. So my point was, if we can make it so that this is not a separate, the ribbon is not a separate thing, but it's actually the actual submit section of the edit form.
Interesting.
That was my main concern, because when I was testing, I was the node preview thing. I had save draft installed, and it bugged me that when I was editing the mode in, I had the save draft and whatever all the buttons, and when I was previewing it, I only had save or go back.
I don't know. That sounds technically difficult potentially, and maybe the right thing to do is just say save draft needs to update its code to alter the ribbon as well.
Preview.
To alter
Form.
the preview ribbon.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Is that concern posted to that issue as well? Okay. Okay. Well, I think yeah, I would still hate to delay further work on that. I think as long as we don't discourage it, it seems like Dr. Wilmot's ready to continue taking that to the finish line.
Yeah, I can file a follow-up once that. Usually, what I do when big issues, issues that have had many comments and we had many ideas and bike sharing about things, when they get merged, I usually go through the entire issue, and if there's something that I file follow-up, so I'll do that again.
That's great.
Great. Yeah, I'm not going to bring up more on that because it looks like we're kind of okay with the direction that one's heading, but it does still need some work. I think bringing it to aesthetic completion. Okay, so the next issue is automatic updates, or just generally core updates, which is issue 2018. There's a bunch of sub-issues here, most of which actually haven't received a whole lot of attention recently. The one that is first in the list here is issue 3105, which is making it so that core can update itself via the user interface. And its problem currently is that it doesn't work with the authorized.php file, that if Backdrop doesn't have permissions to write to the file system, if it stops right in the middle of the update to go and ask for permissions, like it's in this bad place where it's like trying to write the files, but authorized.php gets injected into the process, and then it doesn't work. I'm not quite totally sure why. But the question that we have that we raised in this past week is a sub-issue of this now, 3208, which is removing authorized.php entirely, which may seem, a little bit strange that we're like, oh, well, this thing that has been in Drupal forever suddenly doesn't work for one of our things, so we'll just remove it rather than fix it. But the thought process there is that authorized.php is kind of fundamentally incompatible with the idea of automatic updates, because an automatic update means that the user is not actually involved. And so authorized.php's concept is that when you update a module, you enter in your FTP credentials, your username and password, and then Backdrop temporarily switches to that user's credentials to write the files to disk, and then switches back afterwards and forgets the username and password. And so it makes it so that it writes the files as that other user instead of as the web user. But if you were to have automatic updates, you wouldn't be able to
provide those credentials.
And we certainly would not want to try to store users' credentials. So the idea is in 3208 that I'm soliciting or asking for feedback if people have ever used authorized.php. I also asked on Twitter. Most people didn't know that it existed or what the heck it did or anything. Like the idea, well, most people didn't update via the user interface in the first place because they're Drupal users. But even those that didn't encounter authorized.php because if you're on a shared host,
the web user is the FTP user.
Yeah.
And so the credentials are no different.
Yeah. And so there's some questions around that. Oh, and lastly, we don't use authorized.php for the project installer right now either. And so the project installer also doesn't work unless the web user and the FTP user are the same person. So basically, it's like it's like not fully implemented right now, and it's fundamentally not compatible with where we're going. Should we just remove it entirely? So if you got,
is it not being used even in the manual installation thing?
It is no. It's only being. Oh yes. Sorry.
In the URL paste URL form.
Yeah, if you
it's used there.
If you paste in the URL, then it's used there. Or if you use update module to update an existing module, then it's used there. So basically, anything that we got from Drupal 7, it works there. But anything that we've added since we became Backdrop, it doesn't work with authorized.php.
Yeah. The other place that I often seen that dialogue was Simply Test Me at some point. I don't think it's it has gone through various like maintenance phases, and at some point you couldn't install modules via the URL thing. It was asking you for FTP credentials, and that was only for the D7 version, not for the D8. It was a bit funny, but I haven't used it in a while. I mean, I use Simply Test Me, but not this specific feature of installing things post installation. But yeah, right. Just as a thought.
So anyway, we're soliciting feedback there. It seems like for the most part, people are in the like, let's just remove it camp. It is going to be a little bit strange because this will basically put Backdrop 100% at odds against the recommended permission setup for Drupal, which I was reading over the permissions page for Drupal, like how to set your file permissions for Drupal, which is an extraordinarily long read. And
Drush fix permissions.
Yeah, there's Drush fix permissions, but it's funny, Jeff, like Drush fix permissions literally would break the project installer right now. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I plan on writing a nice documentation page that says, hey, if you are not going to use Git and you don't want to touch your code, then this is probably a more secure option for you. But if you really want to be secure, here's the best things that you should do.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it should actually be multi-options. So it's like Drush fix permissions secure and Drush fix permissions like standard or installer or something like that, you know.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That would be very cool. We could do that.
Yeah, because we need to fix permissions both directions, right? Fix permissions if you want automatic updates and fix permissions if you want to have a non-writable web directory.
Yep. I could do that. I like it.
Fix permissions insecure, please.
Yeah, fix it with a hammer.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's all I've got for automatic updates this week. There's also package signing, issue 1992. That's still in prototype phase and needs some more work there.
Franklin wrote some stuff for that.
Oh, yeah. You know, I haven't mentioned that on one of these meetings. You're right. And I haven't read over all of it, but he went through and reposted some proof of concept code that uses, oh, actually, I'm not sure he did do proof of concept code. He did write a really long summary, though, about how we can use OpenSSL instead of Sodium. But I haven't quite been able to absorb it all yet. Anyway, thank you, John, for posting that comment. I'm sorry that I haven't responded yet to it. So there's that. So that is still an option that we could, when we do our signing of our packages, we could use OpenSSL instead of Sodium. I don't think that we've really made any further progress on deciding which way to go since John posted that comment.
I don't think that this feels like sort of like an independent thing. Like it wouldn't hurt implementing the signing and having that. Is the signing whatever MD5 whatever we have? Is it going to be?
It would be really important for automatic updates, and is a good idea for all of the updates we're doing now as well. So I think, I don't know if it's a blocker for getting the manual update button in, but it would be a blocker for automatic.
Fair enough.
It's something we should think about, although it doesn't necessarily need to be done by September 1st. I would say we should focus on the manual button, see if we can get that in by September 1st, and then this can come either shortly thereafter or before we get automatic updates in.
Yeah, so it actually looks like what he's saying here is that he's been doing some proof of concept code, but it's not complete yet. So he expects it to be on 1,000 lines roughly when he gets it all implemented. I don't know, we'll see.
Fun times.
Okay, let's move on now. We've got some other areas that we're moving forward on in automatic updates. I do think removing authorize.php might be our next step there, because if we can remove authorize.php, that will unblock the update core via the user interface. And then if we get that, like that would be
huge.
That would be huge. Yeah, that would be a great stepping stone.
Yeah, I was going to take a crack at removing that.
Great.
Yeah, there probably won't be much to it, you know.
Don't call this function. Carry on.
Yeah, it already has, like, if the permissions are okay, then just do the normal installation. Otherwise, go through the authorize.php thing. So it's really just going to be like, if the permissions are fine, then do it. Otherwise, nothing. Yeah.
Maybe error.
Yeah.
Throw a message. Yeah.
Throw a message. Yeah. And then we'll need to follow up either as part of that or a separate one that makes it so that if installer module is enabled, that we do a status report check saying if your permissions are correct for installer to actually function. Because installer is responsible for doing all of the installation. And after we remove authorize.php, it'll be a requirement that the permissions are set correctly for it to function.
I think we already have some permission checking in core, like on the files directory. So we could look at how that's done and copy that message for the status report.
Yeah, and then check all of the possible destinations. It's still a little bit tough because in order to really be 100% accurate, it needs to recursively check every single file. Yeah. So that's kind of expensive.
Maybe only do that once a day or something. Put a timestamp on it.
Yeah, or even make it manual. You know, recheck permissions button, and then it does a batch type thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Follow up. I think that's what I just decided describing it. Okay. More issues that are on the hit list for 1.11. Tags for modules. This is an improvement to the modules page. I'm not going to recap this one because it's been going on for a while and there's no updates on it. That's issue number 37. This minor issue, use EXIF data to rotate images, 2887. That one has been ready for review for the past couple of weeks and just needs some eyeballs on it. Graham re-rolled that one per our request, so that's ready for review. And then not so minor, that is a really helpful immediate issue is 3134, which is the ability to upload a file directly into a rich text editor. And the status of that one, wait, that's not, oh, sorry, that one, sorry, I'm confusing these issues. We already have the ability to upload a file directly into the rich text editor. That was added in 1.10.
Image browser.
This is add an image browser to the insert image dialog, which is quite a bit more ambitious. And that one also, its mark needs work right now, but it really kind of more needs review. I think the only complaint that we have right now is around aesthetics again, like the image browser doesn't have enough room. Is that right, Gregory?
Sort of that. So there's two buttons that toggle the library on and off, and then when you use that, the dialog just jumps to the left or the right of the screen, and then it's just minor usability issues. I think that Jen put it nicely there, that even like that, it's a huge improvement. So we shouldn't worry about that. It shouldn't stop us from merging. And if we decide to merge at some point, like say 2-3 weeks before release, and then again, I can file follow-up issues for making it prettier or work better. But even in the state that it is now, it's so much better than like, not having it.
It really looks great.
I haven't actually had a chance to try it recently.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds exciting. And that's it for the 1.11 issues. Do you guys have anything else that you guys like to bring attention to?
So just tiny things fixing here and there. The issue with the fourth info type of messages, please manage that. I'll fix more issues then. If you do it soon.
Is it RTBC?
It is RTBC for some time now. And so if you do it before the weekend, my weekends are a great chance to fix other things. So we'll have here and there.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it's worth calling out that the RTBC queue has actually gotten away from me, which I know, which it doesn't normally do. I usually
good job, community.
Turn through the needs work or needs review issues, but yeah, we've got a dozen RTBC issues in here now. That's awesome.
I just wanted to ask a question. Yeah. So Jeff, Doc Wilmot said that he offered to do a little bit more merging and helping with the RTBC issues and the smaller ones, and you offered to mentor him. Where are we with that?
Yeah, we scheduled a meeting, but we crossed wires, so we have to reschedule. That's where we're at.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm eager to do it, and I think he's eager to do it.
We're all eager that you do it.
We're all eager for everyone to do it.
I'm eager as well. Even though I'm the culprit that's responsible for kind of being like not documenting processes enough. But yeah, and things that you guys need. The best thing to do for me actually is to just rope me into the meeting, honestly, and then I can communicate that way. I know that that's terrible because if I wrote it down, then it would last forever.
I wrote down notes, and as an exercise, I was going to have him file a PR against the procedures, because that's so easy.
Yeah.
No pressure, but same process.
Yeah.
And then go through some of the RTBC ones and do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Good thinking.
And I'll add you to the meeting, and then it'll just be on the calendar, and you just either show up or don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
And thanks, Dr. Wilmot.
And thanks, Dr. Wilmot.
The last thing that I would like to mention is the thing that maybe we were discussing before offline. The synchronizing, keeping contrib and core modules that came from D7 contrib in sync. So we have lost sync. We started off by filing up that DCU backdrop.org site, but then another solution came up with from Brandon. Yeah. So I think we should do this sooner than later, because the more we wait, the more updates are accumulating.
Yeah.
If we get the notifications now, we can, like, each time there's a new thing that comes out, we can at least do these bit of changes, and then we'll go back and see what we've missed. But the longer we wait, the more changes we miss.
Yeah. So would you, Gregory, test that pull request against backdropcms.org?
Yeah, I can do that.
Or a module or whatever it was. And if you can say that it's good, I'll merge it.
Yeah, so it currently works for core.
Okay.
Yes, that's all we needed. We need to decide at some point where it's going to live, what it's going to do. So are we okay with just filing issues, just that functionality for now?
I think that's a good first step.
Yeah.
I think that, as we use it, we'll start to identify things that it needs to do better, and we can adjust.
And how would you expect that to work? Like testing bit, do you want me to file a local of b.org on my local and test it there, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that will actually cause it to file tickets, right?
Oh, I'm not sure if that will work, because it might not have permission to file tickets.
No, everyone can file tickets. Everyone can open tickets.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, give it a try.
Okay, cool.
See if it works. Uh,
I'm going to look at that code too.
maybe
Just kind of
shorten that
curious.
array so that it's only like one module, so that your computer isn't creating all the issues that we're about to create on the live site. Like just do like token module or something that we know there's an update for.
That's only one of them. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
only one.
Yeah.
The other thing would be just what to call it. At the moment, it's called backdrop Drupal status check. We usually call things Borg something,
Borg,
right?
yeah.
Okay, right, okay. Jeff, yeah, please. We could use the second revise. Yeah,
That would be great. So I noticed there's one thing in the additional Q&A section per day: automate code style checks on pull requests. Do you know who added that?
Yeah, Jeff did.
Did Jeff add that?
Yeah, I started doing that, and as we talked about last week, there's like thousands of code violations
In core.
in core. So like I started going through the files, which is really going to improve our API site, because the stuff that's forcing us to update is like doc blocks, and that's really exciting. But there are a couple things where I've asked for Nate's review, like where I'm making decisions and I'm not sure that they're I'm on the fence about whether they're the right thing to do or not. Like views module, for example, most of its classes are word underscore another word underscore, and that's code violation. So I've been saying, PHP XCS, ignore this line, and then tagging it with to do 2.x, rename these classes to meet. So if that's okay, if people are on board with that, I'll just keep trucking along in the files. And I've been adding, like, okay, I'm in databases right now, and I got my name next to it. So if anybody wants to jump in and take whatever user module and then put their name next to it, the other people will know not to work on that. And I think we should make the pull request against the PHP CS branch rather than against 1.x, and then we'll get them all into one place.
When it's ready, we'll do it. The only thing that I took a look at the initial pull request that included the admin menu module, and my only concern was single line / comments were converted to sort of like doc block style comments. I'm not sure if we want that, because then it increases the unnecessarily, I think.
Yeah, I think that might be a difference between Drupal's coding style now and Backdrops, where the Drupal 8 coding style is a lot more specific, and so they were probably trying to make compatibility between. Wait, there isn't a Drupal 8 version of that.
It seems to be kind of an anomaly, because I didn't know it at the time that we were going back and forth, Kronos, you and I, in that issue. But in PHP files, it doesn't care about having 2 single-line comments, but in JavaScript files, it flags them. So maybe I'll just look at that rule and say, no, just let us have 2 single-line comments in a row if we want.
Okay.
Yeah, let's please do that. And I remember now you mentioned that it was only JavaScript. I remember now. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know that until I got through more PHP files.
So, Jeff, one question I've got, technically, on this implementation, maybe I should just comment this on the pull request. You're using Coder module to do the code checks, it looks like. Is that right?
Yeah.
And in the script, it does a composer require backdrop /coder.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I made a Composer packages project that Composer knows to go and pull in.
Huh. So that mean that we can now install, is that just for Coder? Is that for?
Just for Coder. I have my eye on perhaps automating, putting every backdrop contrib module as a packages project, and backdrop core, of course, as well. But it's kind of it's like nobody would have to use it. It's just, it would be available.
It'd be convenient for people who wanted it, but
Yeah, anyway, I just was surprised.
Composer.
And so it begins.
I need to find a way to lighten people's attitudes about Composer, because it really is quite a powerful tool. And I understand that you don't need to use it, and you shouldn't. Nobody should be forced to use it, but it should be acknowledged as a good tool, I think.
We're actually converting everything, like in our agency, there's another fella here, a senior tech, that is actually converting all the Drupal 7 sites to like automating everything and using Composer, composerizing them or whatever. It is a great tool. So long as we use it for our infrastructure and we don't push it to people to use it, I think it's fine.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we don't even have to have Composer JSON in core to do it this way. It just fires on the CI server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really surprised that would work. Yeah,
that's great.
Cool. Well, yeah, it looks like there's just a boatload of code standards improvements. You know, we could also, to make this a little less painful, we can start merging all of those code standards fixes like before.
One at a time.
Yeah, we can do this separately from the add PHP CS to the Zen CI checking. Because what this will do is it'll make it so that every pull request it'll do code checks.
Yeah.
So you mean so the separate modules that we fix the coding styles for file it against one.x, you mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because Jeff just said maybe it's better to do it all against the same branch and do it all together once ready. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I don't know which would be less painful. They're both going to be kind of painful.
Oh, doing it all at once? Is that what you said?
Or doing them separately. Like doing all at once on, like getting all the fixes on one branch and then merging. Or doing them separately.
I don't know.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, it's kind of whichever way you want to go.
Yeah, one thing that I think about filing a bunch of things against one.x is it's going to create more overhead for like you, for like Nate.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're trying to do is reduce that overhead.
It could be less if Doc Wilmot gets in there, because these are all just like coding style changes.
Yeah,
like,
this is his bread and butter.
Yeah, it totally is.
I'd love for a few people to jump in that issue and take some files. Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll schedule the meeting with Doc Wilmot, and I'll bring that up as an idea as well.
Okay.
Oh, and we didn't mention the issue number on that. It's 3213 for anybody looking for better tooling that automates the PHP coding syntax for
I
styling.
would love to look into doing that for Contrib too at some point.
Yeah, we could definitely do it in Contrib.
We just need to get our automated testing at all going in Contrib.
We can do it with Travis. I don't know about doing it with ZenCI.
Yeah, that might be fine. Travis is slow.
It would be cool if we could have, we mentioned that before, I don't know what the capacity, like Gore's capacity is recently, but we did mention that in the past. As soon as we had it for core, each pull request had its own sandbox. We said that's so cool, we should have it for contributor. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, kind of the interesting thing here is that this pull request, the way it works is it doesn't, it's not actually using an external service to do the code checking. The code checking is on the machine that is running the tests. And so you can run it like what Jeff's probably been doing is running this locally and then fixing all of the issues locally. And so that means that any testing service like Travis or whatever, that just needs to run the script and then you'll get the coding standards violations.
It doesn't need to run the software.
What do you mean software?
Coder's a module, so it needs to actually be running on
It needs to be able to execute
a backup
PHP.
site.
Yeah.
It needs a database and stuff.
Does it need a database?
No, it doesn't need a database. It's just no. It just
Yeah, Coder only provides the definitions for how the PHP should be formatted,
Okay.
and then it uses
library.
PHP-CS to
Okay.
execute the code standards check.
Okay,
So
good,
it
good.
actually doesn't need a database or backup
Okay.
installation.
I think we can definitely do it on Travis because Travis was only slow when it had to like install Backdrop, and if we're not installing,
it installed Backdrop quite a few times as well during those test runs.
yeah.
But Jeff, this does mean the way that this is configured right now, it won't actually report back to the pull request
Test fail.
if there was coding violations, will it? Or will it?
It should.
Oh, it should? Oh, will it just...
I believe so. It's gonna.
That's the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you file a pull request right now, ZenCI says 22,000 of 22,001 tests passed,
Yeah.
and then it puts pass fail on there. And so how would it, provide that messaging? Because right now this is just a script. It's not actually like XenCI would need to know about it in some way in order to report a success or failure.
Gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
In Travis, it reports it because it returns a non-zero exit code. So I guess I was assuming that XenCI was going to do either the same or similar.
It probably will.
But if that's not true, I'll work with Gore to make it give relevant feedback to the PR filer.
Yeah, that would be handy, because right now I think you're probably right. It'll probably listen to the status code and it would probably pass, but it'd be really confusing because the message you'd probably see would be, 22,000 of 22,000 tests pass, fail. And it's like
because it wasn't counting.
because of a syntax problem. Because all of the tests pass, but if the syntax fails, then it probably would fail the whole pull request.
It would definitely fail the pull request. I mean, that's how Travis works for sure. But we could get better language than that. We'll like say, the code standard. We'll make it so it says the code standards aren't up to snuff or whatever. Make some nice sentence, and then it should give them like the line number or numbers and ideas of what to go fix.
Yeah, that was one point. Does it add it as a comment in the pull request, the report?
I don't know anything about what happens on XenCI side because it's not testable yet in terms of like I wish there was a way. I guess if we had like a staging backdropcms.org, maybe that would work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's a discussion to have with Gore.
One last idea: instead of doing coding standards ignore start and then coding standards ignore end in each one of these classes, you could just use coding standards ignore file and just do the whole file, because the file is.
I didn't want to ignore the whole file though.
Oh, okay. I thought that the classes were the only thing in the file.
It's what it's complaining about is the class names,
right?
And then it's checking the rest of the code, the functions and stuff that are inside the class and properties.
Okay. So you're sort of whitelisting line by line where there's classes, right?
Yeah, we could ignore the whole file.
Or maybe we could run it once, fix the things that are broken, and then ignore the file.
Ignore the file until 2.x.
Until
yeah. Okay. I think it's still a good idea. Like, and even if we don't get the automated part done, although the automation would definitely be that would just it would just be so nice to not have to nitpick people's code style every single time they wrote a pull request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's completely objective. It's not like nobody's going to interpret it as one human saying, "I think your code, is bad" or whatever. It's just a computer saying, "Hey, these are our standards," and it didn't meet them.
Yeah.
It leaves time for other nitpicking.
What's that?
It leaves us time for other nitpicking, other type of nitpicking.
Yes.
Awarding.
Conversations that do need humans.
Oh yeah. But it also gives the developer something to possibly do in the day or week or 2 weeks that a human gets to the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, great. Let's continue on with that. Let's see. Yeah, we are way over time. Okay. You guys have any last minute things? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And thank you everybody out there for watching. We'll catch you guys next weekend on the internet. Bye.